Okay. Why do we run Yacob and his maid devil? And why is running Yacob the same as running an engram? Quick overview. Our supreme wisdom lessons can be studied as formulae, equations, and functions. And real quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to speak about how these three things are the same and what makes them different. And that will help us understand everything else that we're going to cover. What is a formula? What is an equation? And what is a function? When one understands the meaning and the usage of formulae, equations, and functions, one can gain a deeper understanding of our mathematical theology. So in this lesson, we're going to examine lesson number 1, specifically question number 4, and we're going to look at it as a formula in order to gain a better understanding of our supreme wisdom, the supreme technology, and the Holy Quran. And we're going to connect the lesson, the text, with our own aberrated thinking. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we're going to use our lessons as more than just a lesson. We're going to look at it as an equation. Okay, so our learning objectives. First, we want to understand the concepts, formulae, equations, and functions. Then we want to understand how our supreme wisdom lessons can be used as formulae, equations, and functions. And then we want to understand how to convert the data from the supreme wisdom lessons into the terminology that's used in the supreme technology called Dianetics. And we want to be able to do the same thing in reverse. How can we convert the data from the supreme technology into the terminology that's used in the supreme wisdom? Have I confused anyone, or does that kind of make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay. In other words, we're going to look at our lessons in a mathematical way in order to calculate, in order to evaluate the significance of the technology. And we're going to tie them both into aspects of the Holy Quran. So a quick overview. And this is where everything begins. Can we use Yacob as an allegorical representation of the reactive mind? In other words, can we take that lesson, which is lesson number 4, why did we run Yacob and his maid devil from the root of civilization over the hot desert? Can we take that and look at it or use it internally to find out if we have an internal Yacob and internal maid devils that are causing trouble?
Absolutely.
Okay. So could the maid devils of the lesson be the equivalent, or can they parallel the content of what we call the engram bank? So then if we look at our lesson where it says we were running the devils or running Yacob, does that represent something with respect to the tech?
Yes, sir.
So then if we run them across the Arabian desert, what is the significance of the desert with respect to our own thinking, our own mind? And what's the internal desert that this could be a sign of? And the last part of the paragraph we're going to be looking at is where it says we took from them everything except the language and made them walk every step of the way. Is that giving us clues as to how processing works?
Yes, sir. The language.
The language. There's little clues in the language that parallel both teachings, right?
Right.
Because we run the devil, but in the text, you run the engram. You're the process, right?
Right.
Okay. So real quick, we're going to clear some terms: formula, equations, and functions. So when you look at a formula, by definition, it's a conventionalized statement, and conventionalized just means agreed upon. A formula is an agreed upon statement that's intended to express some fundamental truth or principle, especially as a basis for negotiation or action. So mathematics, science, physics are full of formulas, and formulas represent really concepts and ideas. Okay. Convention is based on, settled by, or formed by agreement. It's a general fact, a rule, or a principle that can be expressed in mathematical symbols. Does everyone understand that so far?
Yes, sir.
Okay, formula is a formula. So for example, circumference equals 2 pi r, right? Now we've used this formula many times.
Right.
Okay, that's a formula. Circumference equals pi times d. There's two ways to calculate the circumference. If someone gives us the radius, we multiply that by 2. If someone gives us the diameter, we just multiply that by pi, 3.141. But that, in a nutshell, is a formula, okay? The fact that there's an equal sign in between circumference and 2 pi r, that's what an equation is. An equation is simply one thing is equivalent to something else. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so a formula and an equation are kind of the same thing. Okay. Usually a formal statement of the equality or the equivalence of mathematical or logical expressions. So what we're saying is there's information in our supreme wisdom that has ARC with aspects of the supreme technology, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. There are certain concepts that are actually equal, but the language is different. And the language is what's tripping some of us up, not us in particular, but individuals that have been hesitant or reluctant to study the tech. We've been caught up on the terminology, not realizing that many things that are being expressed in the tech are exactly the same things that are being expressed in the teaching of Most High Elijah Muhammad. It's just that the language is different. Does everyone follow?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now, what is a function? A function is an equation. It can also be considered a formula, but there's one more characteristic a function has that an equation doesn't. A function gives you a correspondence that if I input a quantity, I'm going to get only one output. Okay, it's a mathematical correspondence that assigns exactly one element of one set to each element of the same or another set. And I'm gonna break down this language. So in other words, if I input a number into the equation, I'm gonna get an output or an answer that is distinct and unique. Does everyone does everyone follow that, or is that kind of?
Can you explain it once again, please?
Oh
Thank
no,
you.
I'm gonna definitely explain it. I'm gonna give an example.
Okay. Yes.
One input produces only one output, but I'm gonna get more specific with the. So here's an example. We're gonna use something from our supreme wisdom. Okay. So if I say the diameter of the earth is 7,926 miles, okay, and if I use the formula, circumference equals pi times d, then if I multiply 7,926 miles by 3.141, I'm going to get 24,895.5, which rounds up to 24,896 miles, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, if I plug in 7,926 into that equation, can I get in any number other than 24,895.5? Can I get in a number that's totally different?
If you put another number in, yes, sir.
No, if I put 7,926 miles into it,
Oh, no. No, sir.
I can't get any other number. There's only one number I'm going to get as an output, right?
Right.
Okay, that's a function.
Mhm.
If I put a number in, I can only get one number out. I can't put 7,926 miles in and get out 23,000 miles, in other words. Does
Right.
that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we look at Mercury. if Mercury, if the diameter of Mercury is 3,000 miles, and there's a reason why I'm showing this as well, because there's another point I want to get across to us. I'm using the very same formula, okay? In other words, I don't use a formula to calculate the Earth and then use a different one to calculate Mercury. Does that make sense?
Right, okay, yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm using the same formula. The formula is universal,
Mm-hmm.
okay? So even though the planets have different sizes, different colors, rotate around the sun at different speeds,
Mm-hmm.
the color and the size and the shapes and how they rotate doesn't change the formula.
Okay.
Okay. So then, based on the mathematics, the circumference of Mercury is 9,423 miles. So let's go over to Venus. The diameter is 7,000 miles. Again, I'm using the same formula. The circumference is 21,987 miles. And I'm only going to do the first four. If I look at Mars, the diameter of Mars is 4,000 miles. Circumference is 12,564 miles. Okay, so that's what a function is. A function is I plug in one number, I can only get one answer. Okay. So important lessons. So a unique and distinct output implies there cannot be one input with more than one answer. Okay, does everyone follow that logic?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If I input a number, I'm only going to output a number. And it doesn't matter where in the universe I am. The numbers, the equations, the formula don't change if I'm out at Pluto or if I'm at Mercury or if I'm on the other side of the universe. These formulas represent universal truths regardless of space, time, or location, okay?
Yes, sir.
So what that tells us is that one lesson is that, you know, in our actual facts, we're given the actual facts of the planet Earth, correct?
Yes, sir.
What one lesson we can learn from this is, if I understand the actual facts of the Earth, I understand the equations that can be used to gain an understanding of the Earth. I can use those same equations to understand the other planets, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That tells us, see, when you look at, I'll say this one, I'll read this and then I'll say this last point. Equations provide the elements that explain phenomena.
Right.
What Dianetics did was Dianetics provided equations that agree with scripture and help us to calculate the dynamics of the mind. Does that make sense? Y'all with me? Okay, I can't see anyone, so at least I need to hear someone's feedback.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I thought you heard me.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
These equations don't work different for Chinese people than they do from people from Nigeria.
Okay.
It's not an equation used from people who live in France versus people that live in Australia.
Yes, sir.
Okay? As aberrated as people are in America, there's not a different equation for people in America than there are in people in Europe. If we understand the tech and we understand the axioms and the logics and the procedures and the steps and processing, we use the same equations for everyone that we process, regardless of creed or class or color. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So if we understand how the tech works and we experience how the tech works on ourselves, so we know we have received auditing and we have delivered auditing, then we should be able to audit people, whether they're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, agnostic, black, white, red, yellow, or brown, no religion. It doesn't matter.
Right.
The tech is universal. It's just as universal as the equations are in mathematics. And that's the beauty of it. L. Ron Hubbard was able to draw upon the wisdom of our ancestors, which he said were the Asiatics, and he, being a nuclear physicist, united nuclear physics with the science of the mind and was able to extract equations that can be used any place, any time, any color, any religion, any location, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So quick summary. Our supreme wisdom lessons are formulae, equations, and functions. They are statements and questions that are intended to express some of the fundamental truths or principles, especially as a basis for understanding higher knowledge. Our lessons, memorization is like the first step. But as we go back to the beginning and go over it again and pick up the additional data in our lessons, more information is going to come forward. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have to audit really our lessons. We have to go over them and over them and over them. And what's happening is we're oiling the rusty locks. Does that make sense? And I'm going to explain what oiling the rusty locks is towards the end.
Yes, sir.
Our lessons, they can represent general facts, rules, or principles expressed in the form of characters, names, locations, and actions. Now, this thought actually comes from a statement that was made by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan in the lecture titled Satan and the Mastery of the Sexual Urges, where he says, and this is not going to be 100% exact, but I'm paraphrasing. He says, when you study the Bible, the dramas that are taking place within the scripture, the characters and their names represent processes that are taking place inside the body. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So we're not just reading stories about Job and Adam and Cain and Abel. There's more in those stories that are describing processes that are taking place within us. And as we understand the story outwardly, we begin to see them as equations that really are explaining to us what's taking place internally. Okay.
Yes.
So our lessons could represent statements that are symbolic representations of equality or equivalence of universal truths, laws, or principles. Now, we know our wisdom is the kindergarten of the Savior's knowledge, correct?
Yes.
Is it
Yes.
possible that understanding our supreme wisdom is going to be the prerequisite to prepare us for the wisdom that the minister is going to bring back, that's going to come back in the form of that one little book? Y'all have heard about that one little book, right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
We got to have the prerequisites in place. Like you can't study calculus if you haven't studied algebra, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
If we haven't studied our lessons, how will we understand the new wisdom? It's just a thought. Okay. Now, why did we run Yacob? We're going to look at Yacob as a demo kit for the reactive mind. Okay. First, what is the meaning of Yacob, and how can we connect this to the technology of Dianetics? Well, Yacob means one who supplants. He's also called the heel grabber. Have you ever heard that before?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The heel grabber. So the word supplant means to supersede another by force or treachery, to take the place of, or to substitute or replace. Now I'm going to pose a question. What does that sound like in the tech? No one answers. I'm going to keep going forward until we
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. When you look at the definition of supplant, to supersede another by force or treachery, to take the place of, to substitute or replace. Where in the tech have you heard that done before, of something taking the place of something else? We'll just keep it moving. It'll come to you. The Latin root word supplantare means to trip up or to cause to stumble. You break down supplantare, subplanta, sub means under, and planta means foot. So when you look at the word supplant and heel grabber, that's what Yacob means. One who supplants, one who takes the place of another through treachery or by force. And then this popped in my head that one of the uncles, he was disturbed with foot ailments. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Is that valences, Brother Lukman?
You can say, yes, we can say valence. We can say valence because when we're dramatizing, what has happened? A valence. We have lost the knowledge of self, correct?
Yes, sir.
So the valence has supplanted our valence. So yes, we can say that.
I was thinking demon circuit.
And that too, because the demon circuit does supplant and take the place of, because actually those two things go together, correct? So both of those answers are correct. The word supplant, trip up or cause to stumble. In Dianetics Book 1, he says the sanest aberry of Tuesday may be a murderer on Wednesday if the exactly right situation occurs to trip the exact engram. Now, where have we heard something similar to that in our teachings?
I heard the minister say, depending on the situation, we're all potential murderers.
Uh-huh.
And I remember hearing him say that we all are crazy. It's a matter of a little bit or a lot.
Uh-huh.
Is that
And if someone, depending on the situation, if somebody speak the right words, we could become all of that.
Yes,
So,
ma'am.
yes, sir.
Sister Peggy.
I think the messenger said you could turn hypocrite overnight.
Okay.
Is
Yes,
that okay?
yes, ma'am. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought I heard the comment, we can turn devil overnight. Has anyone else heard that before?
Yes.
Okay, so hypocrite overnight, devil overnight. But the bottom line is, L. Ron Hubbard is saying the same thing that's in our teaching, correct? We can
Yes.
all be saying Assalamu alaikum today and then saying a slob of bacon tomorrow, correct?
Yeah, that's true.
So where I was looking at supplanting was, does the reactive mind supplant the analytical mind? Does that kind of,
I think so.
valence and circuits work also. Those work also. Okay. So during the periods when the analytical mind is cut out of circuit in full or in part, the reactive mind cuts in full or in part. In other words, if the analytical mind is unfused so that it is half out of circuit, the reactive mind is half in circuit. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So during a situation, a painful moment of injury, and the analytical mind clicks off, what happens? The reactive mind supplants or takes the place of the analytical mind. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So based on that definition of supplanting and the way the reactive mind will supplant the analytical mind, we're looking at Yacob as a demo kit for the reactive mind. Okay. So look at the word stumble. Stumble means to speak or act in a hesitant or faltering manner. And the word faltering means to speak brokenly or weakly. It also means to stammer. Then when you clear the word stammer, it means to make involuntary stops and repetitions in speaking. It's another word for stutter. So stammer and stutter are talking about the same thing, correct? Can we see?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
So now in Dianetics Book 1, it says, what does the mind do? It shuts off hearing recall. It places vocal circuits in the mind. It makes people tone deaf. It makes people stutter. But now also, you see where it says it shuts off hearing recall. It places vocal circuits in the mind. It makes people tone deaf. Could we say that shuts off hearing recall is the same as we make them blind and deaf and they perceive not? Have you ever seen that in the Holy Quran? Blind
I
and
saw blind, deaf, and dumb.
deaf,
Blind, deaf, and
dumb,
dumb.
right? Okay.
Yes, sir.
And we know the vocal circuits, that could be the same as the whispering devil, correct?
Yes, sir.
In Surah 114. But he talks about stuttering in Dianetics. Our lessons use the word stammering. The dumb must speak plainly. The stammering tongue is speaking clear. Okay. Questions, thoughts before we go forward? All right. So can we say Yacob represents the reactive mind? Could we agree on that one point up to this point?
Yes.
Okay. Now, if Yacob could be the external representation of an internal Yacob called the reactive mind / genetic entity, then could we use the tech of Dianetics to understand question number 4 more deeply? And that's the bulk of what we're going to do real quickly. I don't think it's going to take too much longer, but we're only going to deal with one portion of the lesson. We could use our supreme wisdom lessons to understand the supreme technology in a more comprehensive manner.
Yes.
So now, if this is true, that means that question number 4 contains formulae that allows us to examine the internal dynamics of our aberrated mind through the language of our lessons, which means our lessons could be used as a way of understanding the principles of how the mind works. Does that make sense?
Mm.
Yes, sir.
The data is already contained in our wisdom, but it's contained in the language of symbolism, allegory, and metaphor. Okay. So Dianetics provides a key to unlock the safe that is full of riches. That's what Minister Farrakhan said, right?
Yes, sir.
Like having a safe full of riches, but we lost the key.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was thinking, okay, key to unlock. The word unlock, the word lock reminded me of the Panama Canal.
Mm-hmm.
So the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said once, he says, you know, when you look at the Panama Canal, you're going from the Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean, correct? And the Atlantic Ocean represents storms, and the Pacific Ocean represents peace, because that's the word Pacific is connected to the word pacify, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So instead of traveling all the way down around the southern tip of South America, which would take entirely too long, you can just cut right across and go through Atlantic Ocean to the Pacific Ocean in 3 steps or in 3 locks. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
I think the minister also said, or it might have been Brother Nuri, I think it was the minister had said that the supreme wisdom, the supreme wisdom will make you into God, but the supreme tech will get you there quicker. Is that what he said?
That's what he said.
Okay. So then as I'm looking at the Panama Canal, I'm thinking, well, the first safe or the first lock is our own mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got to remove our own aberrations. That's the first lock. Once we remove the first lock, now we got to remove the lock that's in the lessons. We have recited the lessons, but we haven't really studied the lessons.
Mm.
In our lessons that are misunderstood. And if we can get the lock off of our own mind and then get the lock off the lessons, then the third lock is we begin to unlock the physical and the spiritual universe. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
The whole universe opens up to us because we remove the other two locks. So
Mm.
this is a spiritual Panama Canal, in other words.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Are you saying the Panama Canal got 3 locks?
Yeah, the Panama Canal has 3 locks.
Hmm.
So what happens is the boat comes in the first lock,
And
the door closes, and then the water level rises up and takes the boat up to the second lock. Then once it gets to the second lock, the doors of the second lock open, the boat travels forward into the second lock, the doors close, water comes in and raises the water up to the third lock. Then the door of the third lock opens, the boat travels through the third lock and closes, and now the boat is now in the Pacific Ocean. So it traveled from the stormy weather to calm weather in 3 steps, the same as if we're traveling from low tone up to high tone in 3 levels. Does that make sense?
yes, sir. Also the Amara, the Wama, the Matmaina.
Yes, the Nas Amara, Nas Lawama, and Nas Mutmainna that the minister talks about, I want to say in our intimate, it's either our intimate relationship with Rabbil Alamin or the opening letter to the study guides, where he talks specifically about Surah Suratul Qiyamah, which is Surah 75. So yes, exactly the same thing. Nafs Amara is exactly the same thing as the reactive mind or aberration. The Nafs Lawama connects to the concept, we could say, of a release, and the Nafs Mutmainna relates to the clear. They fit very well. We're saying the same thing, just saying it in different language. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So all 3 of these safes, our mind, our lessons in the universe, have locks, and there's an infinite amount of riches in all 3. And the bulk of the riches we haven't even touched yet. We haven't touched the wisdom that's even contained in ourself yet. We haven't scratched the surface of our lessons, and we haven't traveled out into the universe yet to see what wisdom is out there. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now running Yacob. If we run Yacob and his made devils because they started causing trouble among the righteous people, telling lies, could that also be an allegory for the dynamics of our own thinking? In other words, if we have Yacob within, then we have to have some made devils, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are these made devils causing trouble within us?
Mm.
Oh,
Are these
yes.
made devils lying to us? Do these made devils that tell lies within us and cause trouble within us, did they cause us to fight and kill other people?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And we may not kill people physically, but we do invalidate people, right?
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
So when we invalidate people, what are we doing? We're killing their spirit.
That's right.
Okay.
We can also be killing our own future ideas,
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. Most definitely.
things that we want to do, and we procrastinate.
Mm-hmm.
That can happen as well.
Like writing these books we've been talking about for the past 10 years, right, Brother Salam? So, so could the made devils of our supreme wisdom that cause trouble, tell lies, and cause righteous people to fight and kill one another be the content? Could this be the demo kit describing the content of our engram bank? Can we see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Easy.
Could the made devils be the valences that cause trouble within? Are those our made devils?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does the reactive mind and the valences through circuits, do they tell lies to the self?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then when we take on the valences, which is called dramatization, and we're repeating these circuits in our own speech, does that cause us to fight and kill one another? So people get under our skin, we lash out at people, but is it really that person we're lashing out at, or is that the valence that's in us that's lashing out at the other valence that's in us?
The balance that's in us.
Okay. So we're acting, we've lost the knowledge of ourselves, and now we're living a beast life, meaning we're living other than ourselves, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So look at this word running. We ran Yacob and we ran his made devils, but the word running also means to apply processing to someone or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
It means the application of processing or of the steps of a specific process or procedure. Then you have something called a rundown. It's a series of steps that are auditing actions and processes designed to handle a specific aspect of a case and which have a known end phenomena. So when you get the end phenomena, something takes place at the end that allows you to know that this rundown has been completed. You have gained what it is you're supposed to gain because you come to the end, and you get like a sign that the process is over. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then the word run out means to erase something or cause something to disappear. So if we're running the devil and we're running Yacob, can we say that that's the same as applying processing,
yes, sir.
erasing our reactive mind? Okay, we're just using allegorical language. See, when you understand the significance of the lessons, and I'm not saying that I do, I'm sure I'm just scratching the surface, but our lessons contain principles. And if we understand the principles, we'll be able to crack the whole universe open. We'll be able to crack open chemistry, biology, trigonometry, quantum physics. The Savior has given us a book of formulae. The minister has cracked open and through his words, revealed the complex truths to us. And I'm telling you, family, if you go back and review the minister's words, and then not only look at his words, but look at the examples that he uses. There's key words in his lectures that he has delivered to us. And if you take that key word and then you go study that particular concept, that provides a demo kit that actually will take you even more deep into the word that he is speaking. In other words, if there's a mathematical code that is at the root of the Holy Quran, that the complexity of this mathematical code bears witness to the advanced mind that produced it. That would also say that if Minister Farrakhan is a guided man, and he is, then his words would also contain mathematical precise codes that if we really dig deep and study his words, we'll come face to face with a whole nother pattern of reality of mathematics, science, physics, chemistry, whatever it is that we decide to study. Does that make sense?
Yes, make a lot of sense.
Okay. His words are more than just words, they're formulae. So running devils, in other words, running engrams, could be the process, a series of steps used to handle a specific case with an end phenomena. So does that all make sense? Can we agree up to this point now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now the lesson itself says we ran the devils over the Arabian desert. We took from them everything except the language and made them walk every step of the way. This describes the tech. Okay. So he was causing trouble, right? Causing trouble among the righteous people, telling lies. Okay. So in Dianetics Book 1, he says, well, what can it do? It can give man arthritis, bursitis, asthma, allergies, sinusitis, coronary trouble, high blood pressure, and so on down the catalog of psychosomatic ills. Adding a few more which were never specifically classified as psychosomatic, such as the common cold. And then on page 113, he says arthritis, dermatitis, allergies, asthma, some coronary difficulties, eye trouble, bursitis, ulcers, sinusitis, etc., form a very small section of the psychosomatic catalog. Bizarre aches and pains in various portions of the body are generally psychosomatic. Migraine headaches are psychosomatic, and with the others are uniformly cured by Dianetic therapy. And the word cured is used in its fullest sense. What do you see about all those sicknesses that he describes in Dianetics Book 1 under the title of psychosomatic illnesses? What do you see there?
They are.
Just in our lessons.
Yes. Sister Peggy, you're about to say something?
Oh, I was just slow. The sister already said it.
Okay. These are the same illnesses described in problem book, problem number 1, problem number 2,
Number 2.
problem number 5, and problem number 6, with the 3 uncles, I believe, and the wife.
Mm-hmm.
Same
Yes, sir.
exact illnesses.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Telling lies. He says in Science of Survival, page 150, to the weak, to the cowardly, to the reprehensibly irrational, dishonesty and underhanded dealings, the harming of others and blighting of their hopes seem to be the only way of conducting life. Unethical conduct is actually the conduct of destruction and fear. Lies are told because one is afraid of the consequences should one tell the truth. Thus, the liar is inevitably a coward, and the coward is inevitably a liar. Well, the minister already said that about lies, right? He said you lie out of fear, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Or not you lie, but we lie. Let me correct that. Then he says on page 150 again, he says, many 1.1s blatantly pride themselves on their honesty and so license themselves to make destructive statements for the good of somebody else, which are actually lies. There is an ethic about the handling of truth. I see 1.1 as someone who I call passive aggressive. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In other words, telling lies is part of the reactive mind, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So we took everything except the language. How does this line up with Dianetic processing? Well, we took from them everything except the language and made them walk every step of the way. Okay. Now, if the devil is a demo kit for the engram, then whatever is contained in the engram is what is taken or removed, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what are the elements of the engram? Well, the
Behavior.
engram has, it's a moment of pain.
It's the language.
It's unconsciousness. You have ACTH, which is a stress hormone, which he calls charge in book 1. You have to have a person, which becomes the valence, and then you have the statement, which becomes the circuit, correct?
Mm.
Now, we took everything except the language. Let's look at that one part first. We're taking everything except the language. When we apply Dianetic processing, what are we doing? We're removing the moment of pain. We're removing the consciousness. And if we can get the preclear to cry, he's releasing charge, which is releasing the stress hormone ACTH, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So we're taking everything from the preclear except what? Except the language. They still maintain the memory of the person, and they still maintain the language of the event, but they don't have the emotion that went along with it, right?
Mm.
So can we say that we took everything except the language?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sister Peggy.
Okay, so I'm doing the first book. Okay. So in my lesson this past week, there was something in there about language, about the engram, or was it the engram? Might have served a purpose, but once we got language, it served no more purpose.
if I remember correctly, the engram, the reactive mind does serve a purpose. It does protect us.
Mhm.
But
At one time before we had language.
right,
That's what he said.
that's what he said. But now I'm gonna say that might be based on his history. And I'll leave it there.
Okay.
Okay. I'll leave that there.
Okay. Got it.
Okay.
Brother Lukman,
Yes, sir.
under auditing, can the reactive mind, I'm quite sure it can, be totally eliminated?
Yes.
Absolutely.
That's what clear is. Clear is your reactive
Mhm.
mind, the valence. You have the memories of certain events, but the charge is gone.
Yeah, that's what we want to take off. But
Right.
do the memory leaves?
No, you'll have the memory of certain events. You'll have the memory. You'll remember certain things, but it's like, there's certain things that happen to us that we can talk about right now that don't have any charge on it.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Like at one time I couldn't talk about my dad because it brought up emotion,
Yes, sir.
but and I'm going to say this for the sake of recording this for posterity. It was Brother Robin that called me the day after my mother passed away 2 years ago. And he called, and I can't remember how he found out, or he called me and he started asking me questions. I said, Brother Robin, I know what you're doing. And before I got off the phone with Brother Robin, I was laughing. I was good. I cried that day. I cried when I found out. I cried a little bit when Brother Robin called to check me, see how I was doing. And I think when I took my mother's ashes to my grandmother's grave, because she wanted her ashes to be where her mother was buried, I might have shed a tear or two, but I was no longer sad because my viewpoint of life is just different than it was in the past.
Yes, sir.
So I can talk about my mother and I can talk about my dad now, and there's no emotion because I can think about the pleasure moments. And that's what Brother Robin was doing. He was making me contact all these pleasure moments. Okay. But everything in our reactive mind can be removed to the point where people can say and do certain things and it doesn't generate an emotional response. That's part of what I'm learning now going through SRD. There's things called the TRs, or the training drills, that we go through. And the TRs are designed to remove from you a negative response to certain things. In other words, it's called tone 40 towards a person, where you maintain a tone level in the face of someone who is acting other than themselves. You can still make a good example is go back and view all the videos of the minister when he's being interviewed and all the things that are being said to him and said at him, and look at how he maintains his composure.
Yes.
That's called tone 40 in the language of the text, even though we know he's growing beyond tone 40. That's an excellent example of what tone 40 looks like. You don't need to get emotional if you have the truth.
Mm-hmm.
People yell and people begin to react in an aberrated way when their lie has been discovered, or they don't have the truth to back up what they're saying. They have to resort to an emotional response.
That reminds me,
Go ahead.
when the minister was being interviewed by Mike Wallace, and Mike Wallace mentioned something about Nigeria being the worstest country on like that. The minister,
yes.
He went off for a minute. He got emotional. Then he came back calm. He said something like, "Excuse me for being so," but he came back to the tone level 40.
Well,
you remember that?
Let me say this. I wouldn't say the minister was emotional. I would say he was passionate.
Okay.
And when I'm saying the difference between emotional and passionate could be, emotional is when you come out of character and you act other than yourself.
Okay.
And we've never seen the minister act other than, we've seen the minister passionate.
Yeah, I can say that. I go with that one.
But he's never been disrespectful or acted other than himself.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
So he will use passion. He was passionate with Mike Wallace, but then he brought himself back.
Yes, sir.
Oh. So when we took from them everything except the language, this could mean that we removed everything from the engram except the language. And it means that it was refiled in standard memory banks without the emotional baggage. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So can we see how our lessons, when we dig into our lessons will reveal other things?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
when we look at language, we're not
Uh-huh.
only talking about Arabic, the Hebrew, the language that come from that region,
Mhm.
because he learned when he was among us, he learned how to speak Arabic and Hebrew.
Mhm.
They said we took everything from except the language, but it got to be something more deeper than language.
Oh, language could mean anything. Language can mean French, Arabic, mathematics, chemistry, physics, astronomy, quantum physics. Language can mean any form of communication.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Because we can take this same lesson and we can show, instead of talking Dianetics, we can apply the same lesson to a concept in mathematics, a concept in calculus, a concept in trigonometry. These are universal lessons that we have. They're universal principles that can be applied across the board, depending upon our particular study. Okay.
okay.
Based on our particular study, once we understand the principles that are contained within the lessons, okay.
Let's look at the scenario from a different perspective when we was brought from Africa to America.
Uh-huh.
We took everything from us, including our language.
Yes.
Let's look at that scenario.
So we're
But-
so we're severely aberrated.
Hmm.
So here we are, in the words of the minister, we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. He says we are the universe in miniature. Now, when you look at the facts of the universe in miniature, in Taoism, they use the term the way. And the way represents the sum total of all things. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
In mathematics, you have what's called the universal set. If you're talking about set theory, when you're talking about sets of objects or groups of objects. And in set theory, the universal set is the set that contains all things. Now, does the mind of God, could we represent that mathematically as the set that contains all things? Can we say that?
Yes, the mind of God. Yes,
Okay.
yes,
The mind of God contains all things, right?
yes.
Yes, sir.
Now, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said the mind of the Black man is infinite, correct?
That's right.
Now, I'm hoping to do this Wednesday, if not Wednesday, in the very near future. I'm going to use a certain level of mathematics to prove the minister's words, specifically with regards to Dianetics, but show how the minister's words are mathematically precise and correct. In other words, if the universe represent a collection or a set of the knowledge of all things, and we are a part of or come from the universe, we are not this physical body. That means that everyone that is on this call contains the knowledge, which is the set of all things. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Everyone here has a mind that's infinite,
Right.
but the Jesus is buried in Jerusalem. I'll just leave that there for us to simmer on.
Yes, sir.
He's
Good point.
buried there. The
Yes,
real
sir.
us is buried in this physical body with the thought that we're the physical body. No, we are the universe
No,
that is dwelling
right.
in this physical body.
Right, right, right,
Contained within us is the knowledge of all things.
right.
Mm.
But,
Yes.
but we had to go to sleep in order to allow someone else to rule. But now we are
Mm.
coming back to wake again, which is why they have to give us Instagram and Twitter and crazy movies and crazy TV. They have to distract us from our self-study.
Well, men
Now is the
slept.
time to
Mm-hmm.
be studying ourselves, our
Mm-hmm.
supreme wisdom, closing the gap. Our Savior has arrived. Fall of America, Dianetics Book 1, Science of Survival, uh, listening to the theology of time, the time of what must be done, the books by Brother Jabril, Sister Abel, Mother Tanetta, Brother Abdullah. Now is the time to study,
Mm-hmm.
to reawaken who we really are, so that when the stuff really hits the fan, we are mentally stable.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's no books available, we can go within and read our own self. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. All this stuff that's going on right now is just a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
It's just BS to keep us away from manifesting the God that's really contained within us, that is us, if we all understand that.
Yes, sir, brother Luke.
Yes, ma'am, Sister Sharon.
You made me think about it's, and I think it's in the Bible where it talks about while men slept, the enemy crept in.
And tares amongst the wheat.
Right. The minister spoke about that some years ago. That just came up in my mind when you were speaking just now.
Uh-huh.
And it makes me think about our general orders.
Mm-hmm.
We're supposed to never fall asleep on our posts or get tired or weary.
Right.
We're supposed to always be on alert and
Mm-hmm.
watchful.
Mm-hmm.
Especially at night during the times of meetings. So
Mm-hmm.
what's the night? It's the darkness
Uh-huh.
of this world and the
Mm-hmm.
minds,
Mm-hmm.
our own minds.
Mm-hmm.
So, and just allowing our minds to be touched by the light of Master Far Muhammad,
Mm-hmm.
and asking him to never remove his light from us.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, constantly staying studying the words of Master Fard Muhammad, not just words, but the fulfillment.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Here's a thought I want us to, in the words that the minister used a long time ago. I want us to wrap our minds around this. If you could take the words that a parent would use towards a child to invalidate them or enforce certain things on them, would you say that list of words was finite or infinite?
It can be infinite if
It
we
could
don't
be
correct.
both. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
If we don't correct, it can be infinite.
Right.
Well, what does no, let me rephrase this. Maybe we don't. I'm not talking about correcting it. If we were to take a survey of adults of what their parents said to them when they were children.
Mm-hmm.
Depending upon what it is. Like they can say you'll never be no good,
Right. That's true. But what I'm saying is we could probably narrow it down to maybe 100, maybe not even that. Because if you look in Dynamics Book 1, he gives a list of certain key words that are components of the engrams.
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm trying
Right.
to say is this. Let's say we have 100 phrases. We survey 1,000 people, 2,000 people. We can narrow it down to there's a set of statements that
Mm-hmm.
people have used that said, this is what my mother said or my father said. We can narrow it down to
Mm-hmm.
like 100 statements. That means there's a high probability that somewhere in those statements, we'll be able to
Mm-hmm.
find the statements that were said to you and I, correct?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Now, those statements would be considered circuits, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, if a wicked scientist knew about these circuits or statements and then grafted those statements into the movies and the music,
Mm.
wouldn't our constant listening to music and movies keep us in a constant state of restimulation?
Yes, sir.
Because we're hearing the circuits, but now if we're not getting processing and we don't even know what a circuit is, then we're living and acting other than our own self as a result of TV shows we're watching and music we're listening to, where we're not even aware of the presence of the circuit that's keeping us in chronic restim, right?
Right.
Are you saying that subliminally we can be
Mhm.
programmed and not know it and still
Yeah.
be acting on that
That's called aberration. That's called the reactive mind.
Mm-hmm.
through program, through TV and music?
Well, that's what a program is, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep. Program.
It's a
So
program.
how do one come out of that if we're surrounded with music and, you know, how do we come out of that if it's coming to us subliminally?
Because as we're being processed,
Mhm.
we will make the determination that there's certain things I just don't want to listen to anymore because we become aware of it now.
Okay.
Right.
We become aware.
Mm.
I don't have cable TV. I refuse that. I have my movie channels. I like watching my movies, but I do not have cable TV because when you look at the TV, the shows, the commercials, me personally, I'm just seeing certain things. I'm like, nope, I'm not falling for that. And then I just remove myself
Good.
from it.
Good.
But how many of us are not aware of the tech, not understand how the mind works, and we don't even see what's going on?
Right.
You know? Okay.
It draws me to when we come to that season in American history Christmas, where you hear certain Christmas songs. Now you and I, we don't celebrate it, but before you know it, you can find yourself actually going over the song.
You're sitting there, you're walking around the bookstore, and next thing you know, you're singing Jingle Bells.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And then you have to catch yourself and you look around like, wait, did anyone see me? Me? You know?
That's what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
That's what we got to rid ourselves of.
Okay. But not even Jingle Bells. Just some of the rap music we're listening to. Next thing you know, we're singing the song. You know, some of us say, well, I just like the beat. Okay, well, you like the beat, but while you're listening to the beat, the enemy is putting a circuit in there.
Mm-hmm.
Because whenever you hear the song whenever you're going over the beat in your mind, you're going to hear the words as you're doing it. Right?
Mm.
It is what it is. How can you prove that songs will stay with you for a long period of time? Right? I'm gonna prove this. If I said conjunction junction, what would everyone say?
What's your function?
Exactly. Exactly. And if I said 2 all beef patties, who could finish?
Special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on the sesame seeds bun.
All right, then. So now you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The songs have been ingrained in us.
Mm.
All right, let's
That's
keep
something.
does that all make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So now we took everything except the language. So now we have a memory of what was said and we have a memory of who said it, but there's no emotional charge in it. In other words, we, the auditor, took everything, the negative emotions, except the language. Can we see how this lesson can be used to describe processing?
Yes.
Okay.
Easy.
So how was this accomplished? It says by making him walk every step of the way, right? By making him walk every step.
Yes, sir.
Let's look at that real quick.
And made
Mm-hmm.
When we look at the word walk, that means to move along on foot. There we go, on foot. Remember supplant?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Hill.
To advance by steps. The word walk also means a route regularly traversed by a person in the performance of a particular activity. And then when you look at every step of the way, if you pull that up online or in the dictionary, every step of the way means throughout the entire process.
Mhm.
So we
Yes.
took from them everything except the language. So we processed the devil, removed everything, and had everything refiled in standard memory. Well, how do we do it? We advanced by steps. For how long? Throughout the entire process. What is that called? That's called processing. The art makes the PC advance step by step up the tone scale every step of the way until the process is completed, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir.
So what is the goal of man? In the religion of Islam, it says man had two objects before him: to conquer nature and to conquer self, to bring under his control the powers of nature and his own desire. In the story of Adam as the prototype of man, as related in the Quran, we are told that Adam was given the knowledge of things. That is to say, that man was endowed with the capacity to obtain knowledge of all things. He was also gifted the power to conquer nature, for the angels, beings that are controlling powers of nature, were made to submit to him. So in the religion of Islam on page 156, it's telling us that the goal of man is to conquer nature and to conquer self, right?
Mm.
In Science of Survival, the primary mission of Theta was to conquer the physical universe. And the way he describes it is, he says that Thetan comes in contact with the physical universe, becomes interbulated briefly, learns the laws of the mesh universe, is able to disinterbulate themselves, and then use the laws that were learned to turn around to gain mastery over the mesh laws, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't Islam and the Science of Survival saying the same thing, that our goal, our reason for being here is to conquer the physical universe
And self.
and self?
Mm-hmm.
Then why did God make devil? You show forth and prove that he's all wise and righteous, that he can make a devil / engram, which is weak and wicked, give him power to rule over the person for a certain amount of time, and then be able to destroy that devil or process that engram
In one day.
in one day without falling victim to it. Otherwise, to show and prove Allah is God, always has been, always will be. Sister Sharon is God, always has been, always will be. Sister Peggy is God, always has been, always will be. Brother Salam is God, always has been, always will be. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
See, I noticed you ain't say goddess because she's not a goddess. She's a god.
Right. She's a God. I'm
Yeah.
trying to stay as close to the minister's word as I can
Yeah.
stay.
But some people think that a woman can't be God, but she possessed the same spiritual powers as man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes, sir. Quick summary. Can we agree that our supreme wisdom lessons are a book of formulae, equations, and functions in the form of characters, names, locations, actions, and symbols? Can we agree on that?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Can Yacob be used as a demo kit for the reactive mind or the genetic entity?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Okay. Can the content of the engram, meaning the valences in the circuits, cause us to fight and kill one another?
Mm-hmm.
Can running Yacob and his maid devil, we can call this the engram bank, could this be symbolic of processing?
Mm.
Yes, sir.
If we take everything except the language, could this be the removal of the content of the engram and refiling in standard memory?
Mm.
Yes, sir.
When we gain a better understanding of our lessons, we are oiling the rusty locks of our thinking. Can we agree to that?
100%.
Yes, sir.
And I'm gonna touch on that real quick, and this is where we close out.
Mm-hmm.
Final thought. Our lessons say that the above figures do not include rusty locks. It has been said by the laborers of Islam for allowing extra time to oil the rusty locks is insufficient. That's problem number 31.
Mm.
Well, when you look at oil the rusty locks, let's clear that in Arabic. Let's find it in the Holy Quran and see if it agrees with Dianetics. Surah 83, ayat number 14 says that nay, rather what they earn is rust upon the hearts. Nay, surely they are that day debarred from their Lord, then they will surely enter the burning fire. Well, the Arabic for rust on the heart is rana ayala kulabahim. And the word rust means to take possession or to be possessed. Possessed means to be influenced or controlled by something such as an evil spirit, a passion, or an idea. Isn't that the same as dramatization?
Mhm.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It also means to seize, to overcome, or to descend. Seize means to attack or overwhelm physically or to afflict. So rust upon the heart, could that be an allegory for someone who's become possessed and as a result they descend or go down the tone scale? Could we say that agrees with that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mm.
So rust on the heart is the same as valences and circuits in the engram, right?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because the word kalubahim, the root word is kalaba, and the word kalaba means heart, mind, and it also means the best part. And we know we don't let the devil settle on the best part, right?
Mhm. All in
Right.
mind.
Okay, so that we don't let engram settle on the best part. The best part we could say is we could say that's the analytical mind.
Mm.
Surah 47, ayat 24 says, those it is whom Allah has cursed. So he made them deaf and blinded their eyes. There we go. Sonic and Vizio shut off, correct?
Yes,
Mm.
sir.
Do they not reflect on the Quran, or are there locks on their hearts? Kalubahim akfulahu, akfuluha, excuse me. The word lock comes from the root word kafala, which means to accumulate, to switch off, or to turn off.
Mm.
Well, deaf and blinded, isn't that Vizio and Sonic shut off?
Mm.
So do
Wow.
those qualify as locks?
Yes, sir.
Dianetics Book 1 says punishment of various kinds entering now as locks, key in the engrams. New engrams, which will involve the early ones to enter. New locks accumulate. There goes the word accumulate. Accumulate illness and aberrated action set in most certainly by the age of 40 or 50, and death ensues sometimes afterwards. This is why by the age of 40, 50, it seems like everything starts to fall apart on a physical level. Aches and pains. You wake up and you ask yourself, did I work out yesterday? Because you're all stiff. And like, no, you just slept wrong.
Mm.
you, you know damn well you didn't work out yesterday. Stop lying to yourself. Your Planet Fitness card is still stuck to the back of your purse or your wallet. You haven't used it. No, you didn't work out yesterday. You just slept wrong. Oh, I must have slept with the window open. No, stop lying to yourself. You slept wrong, and that's what happened. So
That made me think about how my mother used to get up stiff. I'm like, Mom, what happened to you? She's like, I don't know.
that's called 50. So oiling the rusty locks. The word oil in Arabic is duhni. And the word, it comes from the root word dahana, which means to anoint or to grease. So when you're oiling the rusty locks, the term grease is significant in the text because when he says grease the track, there's a process. It means to run the preclear through various parts of his life, up and down the time track, so as to relieve enough anatin and missemotion from the case to open it up and get it moving. So if you got a preclear that's stuck, he called it grease the track, and he also called it greasing the rails. So what happens is you run the preclear back and forth. It's stuck on the track. You say, okay, come to present time. You go over a pleasure moment and you get them in a pleasure moment. What you're doing, you're accumulating attention units. Now you try to go back again. You're still stuck. Okay, come back to present time. Let's go to a pleasure moment. What you're doing is you're rocking the person back and forth from past to present, past to present, past to present, accumulating attention units. This is the same as if you're driving a car and you're stuck in the mud, you have to get people to push you to rock you back and forth to gain your momentum. Then they say, gun it, you hit the gas and you come out of the spot where you're stuck, right?
Good
Yes,
point.
sir.
That's the same thing that happens to a person's mind when they can't get past a certain part on their time track. You grease the trap, or you grease the rails, as he says. So oiling the rusty locks can be the same as greasing the rails or greasing the track with regards to the tech. You're using attention units to gain a momentum to get them out of that stuck spot.
But you also said oil represent anoint. You said,
Yes, the anointing.
okay. So they said Jesus had oil on him.
Who?
Jesus. They
Oh,
tried
yes,
they
sir.
said,
Oh, yes,
yeah.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So it will come along the lines on that level. We could say a person's theta is so strong, and I've never been blessed to experience this, but those that have come in contact with the minister, just his atmosphere, some have said have affected them in a certain way. Okay, that's another type of that's another type of oil that's being applied to the rusty locks.
Yes,
You're
sir.
anointed. That presence is like the theta. Okay. Questions, thoughts, comments, because there were so few questions. We actually made it through by 7:30. Wow. But the floor is open. Any questions, thoughts, comments, suggestions, correction? Sister Peggy.
I have a question about the book that you cited.
Mm-hmm.
The book of religion, no, the book of Islam. No.
The Religion of Islam.
Okay, so that's a book.
Mm-hmm. By Maulana Muhammad Ali. It's one of
Okay.
the books we were told to study.
The religion of Islam?
Mm-hmm. It's a green book that looks just like the Holy Quran, and it's written by the same person who wrote the Quran, the version of the Quran that we study, Maulana Muhammad Ali. It's called The Religion of Islam.
And in that book, it also breaks down all the pillars of Islam.
Oh, it breaks down everything. Everything
Yeah.
is broken down.
Jihad, Salam, Saum, Zakat, the different pillars, prayer, the belief in Allah, the oneness of God. It's a very interesting book. Very interesting.
Yeah, a lot of good information in there. How to make the prayers, how to make them in Arabic. What it goes into everything. It goes into everything.
I did not know that. I don't know where. Wow, I missed it, but I did not know that. Okay, may I ask another question?
Of course.
Okay, so this book, The Supreme Wisdom.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I don't know when it was written. So I take it that it was probably, I don't know, in the 30s or after.
Are you talking about our actual Supreme Wisdom lessons?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You got to make sure.
I don't know because mine doesn't have a date.
No, I'm just saying, because you got Brother Wahid on the line. You don't want to call him, you don't want to say you got Supreme Wisdom. You want to say you have Supreme Wisdom lessons.
It has 1995 edition. Okay, but I'm sure these lessons were they not for the pioneers or people of that time?
The original, if you go back into the history, and there are a couple of videos on YouTube that go into history. If you type in the word Sister Bernstein, I think it is, the first secretary. She was the one that was a secretary for Master Prophet Muhammad. She was the one that used to type up the lessons. Okay. So the lessons go all the way back to that time period.
Okay. So if you have these lessons from that time period for those people, and then afterwards, now we have these Supreme Wisdom lessons, and we have the Dianetics. So does that mean that, could it be that these two, that the lessons here along the Dianetics was made especially for us in this time period?
I would say, and this part is my opinion, I would say, oh, how did that happen? Okay. I would say that when you look at Dianetics, book 1, Dianetics book 1 is really designed for people that are 0 and above. Does that make sense? On the tone scale, yes? Can we agree?
Yes.
Okay. But if you look at our condition at that time period, and if you look at the sub-zero tone scale, we had to have a special kind of tech that was designed specifically for us to get us from -40 up to 0, if that makes any sense. Because there's a tone scale below 0.
Yeah.
And the tone level below 0 is when the thetan doesn't even know it's a thetan. It just thinks it's a physical body. It's like a person is God, but they're not even aware that they are God. Does that make sense? So my
Totally
opinion,
deaf, dumb, and blind.
so say again.
Totally deaf, dumb, and blind.
Okay, totally. 100%.
0. Yeah.
So I believe that the wisdom that we were given through the Most High Elijah Muhammad, we can call that a type of tech. That supreme wisdom was put together specifically. Like, in the medical field, you have what's called the 6 rights, right? The right medication, the right dose, the right route, the right time, the right person, and the right documentation, correct? Two
Okay.
different people can present with the same symptoms, but they might not necessarily have the same prescription, correct? One person's prescription might be deadly to another because this person might be allergic. One person takes albuterol for asthma. The other person might take what's the ipratropium? I think it is the other drug that's used for asthma. In other words, Islam had to be designed specifically for the Black man and Black woman in Willis, North America, and a master doctor had to study our condition to prescribe a medication specifically for us in the dosage that we needed at the right time, at the right place, to the right people. Our
Yes.
wisdom was more towards those that were below 0. We get up to 0, and now we come in contact with the tech. Tech and our wisdom, to me, are like 2 sides of a coin.
So if they studied this and they benefit from it, then that was all right. But when it comes to us, we need more than just that. We're in a different
We
time,
needed more than Dianetics, yes.
more than just the supreme wisdom lessons.
Oh, no.
And we
We
have-
don't need more than Supreme Wisdom lessons. We just need the tech to remove the aberrations of our minds so we can actually begin to go into the Supreme Wisdom lessons. You gotta understand, the Supreme Wisdom worked for the Most High Elijah Muhammad, correct?
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
and
it worked for the minister, right?
Yes.
Okay. But now, again, this part is just my opinion. If you look at it through the lens of processing, who audited or processed the Most High Elijah Muhammad?
Master Fard Muhammad.
Who processed or audited the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan?
Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Okay. So the Supreme Wisdom is just fine. But for you and I, because we still have some aberrations, we haven't been studying our lessons, or we can't really grasp the inner meaning. And that's why the minister said it's like having a safe full of riches, but we lost the combination. So the tech is only a tool that's used to clear our mind so that we can access the Supreme Wisdom. But the Supreme Wisdom is the fulfillment of all of it. Fulfillment, by definition, means that which brings everything into its final state.
So you're saying that supreme wisdom, we know, is 100% for us, but because we are so aberrated
Yes.
and need auditing to rid ourselves of the engrams so that we can properly understand the wisdom in the supreme wisdom.
I'll give you this example as a demo kit. Some of us eat things called pastries, right?
Yes.
And this is for us, and it's for those that might view this Zoom meeting. When you look at the word pastry, what word is in the word pastry?
Pace.
Paste. Okay. Now, all of us might remember in elementary school when we made paste, we mixed what? Flour and water, right?
Flour and water.
Mm,
Paste, right?
That's right.
Okay, so if we eat a pastry and we're drinking coffee, what are we making? We're making paste, right?
mm.
Now, when we eat this paste, now we just call it glue. If
Mhm.
we eat paste, what effect does that have on the small intestines?
Oh,
We're gluing,
Everything
we're
Gluing.
digestion,
gluing the small intestines, right?
constipation.
Okay.
Mhm.
So now if you got a layer of glue on the small intestines and you begin to eat fruit or drink fruit juice, can you absorb the nutrients if your small intestines have a layer of glue on them?
No,
no.
sir.
So
Oh.
before you can absorb the bean soup and the good food, what do you got to do? You got to get the glue out to remove that which is blocking the nutrients to come in, right?
Right.
Mm,
Okay. Dianetics came in to remove the mental glue so that we could absorb the nutrients of the supreme wisdom.
good point.
Our
Good point.
mind, our thinking has been glued. Our mind has been glued. Our understanding has been glued because we've been eating a pastry a mental pastry diet, in other words.
Mm.
Mhm.
So the tech unglues everything.
Mm,
It's just like when you have to take something because you're constipated. And I don't want to get too graphic, but usually once you take things to become unconstipated, it's not a pretty sight, right?
that's right.
Right.
Okay. Think of whatever you take to get unblocked as an intestinal processing
Mm,
to
Mhm.
remove an intestinal engram.
yeah.
You're
Yeah,
moving
getting rid of.
you're getting rid of an intestinal devil.
Run it out. Run it out.
You're getting it out.
Parasites.
You're
Mhm.
getting rid of charge.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're getting rid
You're
of
running.
charge.
You're
So
running.
just as you're getting rid of charge, you get it, and the charge sometimes is old fecal matter that's been there for a long time, right?
Mhm.
Yes,
How is
sir.
that any different than the mind? Because when you're getting rid of charge at the ore, you're going through processing, aren't you getting rid of old debris
Right.
from before?
Yes.
Yes,
So
sir.
the Dianetic processing and taking medication to unblock when we're aberrated, we're mentally constipated.
Mm.
So Dianetics is like a mental, what's the word we're looking for? What's the term?
Laxative.
Thank you. That's where. So Dianetics is a mental laxative. And I'm just saying
Yes.
to add a little humor to it, but it's the same principle. Freeing the debris out of the intestinal tract in order to absorb nutrients and freeing the blockages of the old fecal, because understand, old fecal matter, what happens is it turns toxic. It's absorbed into the bloodstream through the small and large intestines, and it's the toxicity in the blood that causes a lot
Mhm.
of the mental illnesses. If you read a book called
Mhm.
Sugar Blues, I can't remember, I think the
Mhm.
author's name is William Duffy, I think. But in Sugar Blues, I believe he talks about that, where some people were in mental
Mhm.
institutions because they might have one bowel movement a week.
That's
Mhm.
crazy.
So now look at this. If you eat
They
3 meals
test.
a day, 3 meals a day is how many meals a week? 3 times
21.
21, right? Okay, you only had one bowel movement. So when Sunday comes and a whole nother week goes by, that's 42 meals, but only 2 bowel movements.
Mm. Mm.
A
That
lot of
backs up and causes a lot of problems in the mind.
yes, built up toxins.
You
Schizophrenia.
build up toxins in the body. So just
Mm.
by fasting and getting rid of allowing the body. When I did my internship, when I was working as a paramedic, when a person is brought into the emergency room under mental illness, the first thing they do is they do a CT scan of the abdomen. And I said, why do you do a CT scan of the abdomen? Now, this was years ago. So why do you do a CT scan of the abdomen if it's mental illness? They said mental illness is connected to people. A lot of times these people are just impacted. They haven't had a bowel movement in a week or two.
Mm.
So the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said what? Our brain and our stomach are what affects one affects the other, right?
That's what he said.
So if our stomach, and it's not necessarily the stomach per se, but the digestion takes place more so in the small intestines. If there's problem in the small intestines, that's going to produce problems in the brain. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So an aberrated person is just mentally constipated and needs a mental laxative. That's what I'm not trying to belittle the tech, but I'm just using humor. But processing is a mental and a spiritual laxative. You're getting rid of the
Mhm.
old junk that's backing up and causing us to be toxic.
Mhm.
Sister Anya,
Mhm.
and I thought I saw Sister Sharon's hand go up, but Sister Anya, go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Did that answer your question, Sister Peggy?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, praise be to Allah. Sister Anya.
My input on that conversation is to refer to the problem book, where, okay, 30, 31, and 32, where it talks about the speed of our mind, this our speed of thought, and the fact of us being completely robbed by the caveman. And then it talks about our speed of thought and the amount of trips that we make, to how many round trips it takes. And that made me think of the fact of how many times we read the Quran, how many times we read these our lessons, our supreme wisdom. But are we gaining a deeper understanding each time
Yes.
we read it, or
Yeah.
are we just spinning our wheels and we've made another circuit, but we come away with the same level of understanding? And then it talks about us, the lion in the cage, walking back and forth, seeking a way out of the cage, and how long it's taken us to, we're talking about 4 centuries just to find the door, right? And then it talks about modern equipment allowing us to speed up our pace, our walking pace, and covering more territory, which I take that to mean gaining more wisdom and understanding that could be looked at that way. Then it goes into the 17 million keys, and again, it's talking about how long it is taking to turn the 17 million keys, and the rusty locks. Then it makes a statement about extra time has been given to oil the rusty locks, but that extra time is insufficient. And then it keeps saying, hurry, hurry, lose no time. And then it goes on into the next one, and it talks about us being returned to our original land, our original level of understanding, and that we've been sent a teacher, and they've worked day and night teaching us. And again, then there's a concern, and they're worried for the time of laboring is limited. And then it goes on to again to talk about that poison and the rust. And again, it keeps talking about the time that is being given to help to remove this poison and this rust. And now it goes into the daily average of accomplishment of weekly converts. And then it asks the question, what means and methods shall be used to remove poison and rust from of said the worst one? So I thought of this tech, we talked about modern equipment to help speed up the time, and the tech by which by what means and methods shall be used. So when you said that our lessons in what we have in our lessons is sufficient, but it takes the time that it is taking, there's not sufficient time, and we've been allowed extra time, but the extra time, it's again because of our condition is so bad that even the extra time is showing, or that those that wrote the history 15, 16,000 years ago saw that extra time was going to be needed. So what method could be used to aid in speeding up the process of oiling those rusty locks, of the reawakening taking place among us? So they had to come up with a technique, and hence we have the diagnetic tech. So I said all of that because that's what my mind was thinking on as you were having a discussion. Yes, sir.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's you right there, because there has to be a means and a method, correct?
Yes, sir.
Sister Sharon, did you have something before? I thought I saw your hand go up and then it went down. Did I see your hand go up?
Yes, sir, I did, but you spoke to both points I was going to make concerning what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad mentioned with the diet and the mind, and also with people with mental illness, how the doctors always want to know what it is that the patient or person is eating or has eaten, thus connecting it to mental illness. And I know for myself, just personally speaking, depending on what I eat, sometimes I'll get brain fog. Like today, I had a candy bar driving the bus. And then, a little while later, I was like, I'm sleepy. I was exhausted.
Yep.
So, just doing little experiments on myself, I can bear witness to our lessons. And this tech, it was some other stuff too, but for the sake of time, that's all I wanted to mention right now.
If you got something else, Sister Sharon, you can't withhold that. Ain't no withholding thoughts because of the sake of time. What are you on a schedule? Are we on a clock here?
No, time don't exist for us. We don't have a beginning or
ending.
ending.
You might clear everyone on this Zoom meeting. You can't withhold that.
Yes, sir. It was something earlier that was mentioned about us being part of Allah and this physical body. Just me really thinking deep into it, just knowing that we're all a part of God's body. The physical body is just for us to manifest who God is, who the God in us are or is. And just striving to get back to that I. And we were already introduced to the I, God, from Master Fard Muhammad through the lessons of, or to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So, L. Ron Hubbard is just being witness to Master Fard Muhammad. It's already given to us. However, just removing all of the garbage up off of us or out of our minds to really get to or tap into that God power. And going through the auditing process, being audited, it's amazing. Just to say, wow, that's something my mother said. I wonder where she got it from. Or that's something my sister said to me or did to me. Where did she get it from? And then, just breaking the generational abuse you know, not imbuing that on my children, certain things, or
Mhm.
just going to them and apologizing to them for, you know, imbuing that on them. So it's amazing. And
Mhm.
it's a beautiful journey.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
No, thank you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I wanna pose one thought, and this is along the lines of why I think the Savior has a connection with the text. Okay, again, I'm gonna preface this with this is my opinion. But it's based on 2 points. Well, actually, it's based on many points, but just two specific things I want to share with the believers just to get your feedback and see what you think. The first is the fact that coming from Closing the Gap, where we know in our history, we know Alfonso went into the Caucasus Mountains and removed 7 demons from baby G, right? We're all aware of that history.
Right. Right. Yes, sir.
So if he did that for her to prepare her to give birth to the Savior, the perfected one. There was a question that was posted on Facebook today, and the question was, and no one would answer it. And the question was, can the devil be reformed?
Mm-hmm.
And my response was, yes,
Absolutely.
devil can be reformed. You know, and then someone had quoted the lesson. I said, well, the lesson says that the prophets have agreed
Right.
that it can't be done.
Hmm.
Prophets have said it would
Prophet.
take 600 years. I said, but you can't go by what the prophets say when God is present.
Come on.
Good. Good.
So to say that the devil can't be reformed is to say that the Savior doesn't have the technology to reform the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
I believe that the Savior has,
Wow.
because he said he would come to give justice to both people, right?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Now, if Alfonso did that for baby G, I'm making an assumption here. I would assume that that wisdom was passed on to Master Farad Muhammad.
Right.
And if Master Farad Muhammad is such that he perfects what he touches, is it possible that he took that process that was used on baby G and perfected it and gave it to
Right.
someone else to perfect her people?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, so to say you can't just quote the lesson. Well, the prophet said, no, the prophets can't do it because the prophets don't have the knowledge to reform them.
Mm-hmm.
The perfected one does have that knowledge. Otherwise, he's not the perfected one.
Mm-hmm.
I can add to that, Brother Lukman.
Go ahead, Brother Salam.
When Jesus was talking with Allah, and Allah asked Jesus, "Did I tell you did I tell you for them to worship you and your mother, something like that, worship you and your mother?" And Jesus' response said, "You know what's in my mind, but I don't know what's in your mind." So by you saying that the prophets, they couldn't see the devil being reformed because they didn't have that insight.
No.
And I like what you said. God had that insight to reform the devil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's profound, Brother Luke, man. I like that.
Yeah.
First time I heard
No praise
that.
due to Allah.
Yes.
And I quoted, I said, go to page 83 of Our Savior Has Arrived. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, there will be some whites that will be in the hereafter. He says, but at this time, I will not tell you who they are, but you will learn of them at a certain time.
There it goes.
My thought.
There it goes.
My
That's
thought is
Minister
this.
said it.
My thought is this.
Mm-hmm.
Why does Muhammad make the devil study 35 to 50 years before he can call himself a Muslim son?
Mm-hmm.
They're the only and greatest universe flag. And he was a sword on the upper part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the question.
Church of Scientology.
Here's the question. The flag is the sun, moon, and star, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Now, what Muhammad are we talking about that made the devil study 35 to 50 years?
Master Prophet Muhammad.
Because Prophet Muhammad didn't do it, right?
Right.
Okay. Did the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad make the devil study 35, 50 years?
Mm-mm.
At the time that Master Fryman was here, did he make the devil study 35 to 50 years before they can come among us?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, you got to tell me when that happened, brother. When did that happen?
1930.
If we say at the time that when the Savior was here in 1930, he first came in 1910. In 19, he made himself known. When did he make them study 35 to 50 years before they can come? When were they allowed to come amongst us and do trade?
That's a good point.
Excellent. Yes, sir.
Because you can't say Prophet Muhammad.
No, we can't say that.
Can't say Prophet. If you study the history, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, didn't have anyone study 35 to 50 years before they can come among them and do trade.
Nope.
If you look at the Savior back in 1930, study 35 to 50 years before they can come among us. The only time they came among us to do trade was in 2011.
Right.
And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, I found something 35 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
So L. Ron Hubbard said he met a stranger.
All right. So if Muhammad made the devil study 35 to 50 years before he come amongst us, then it seems to me that if Muhammad made them study, that he gave them that which they were to study.
Right.
They didn't come up with their own study.
Right.
So it seems to me that the same Muhammad that made the devil study 35 to 50 years is the one who gave them the curriculum that they needed to study for 35 to 50 years.
Where do 2011 come in at?
It's safe to say 2011 when the minister was talking about the Masons
Introduced it.
and Dianetics.
Dianetics, yeah.
But he opened up talking about the Masons, right?
Mm-hmm.
He says, you're obligated to help me. You're no longer under that sword, but now you're under another sword.
Another sword. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
That's what he said.
Go ahead.
Mother Tanetta Muhammad said that at the right time,
You
he would assist us and help us in this work, right?
That's right.
Wow.
Is it a coincidence that the headquarters for the Masonic Lodge is Clearwater, Florida, the same place?
No, sir. It's not a coincidence.
Not a coincidence. Are there Scientologists that are helping members of the Nation of Islam right now?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
There's
Right.
that one, but
Why would the minister use the word reparations with regards to the tech? Did anyone hear that?
No, I haven't heard that one.
He used the word reparations. Now I got to go find. I got to find this. Got to find a stable datum, because this part is my opinion. But this is what I heard the minister say. If I'm correct, he used the word reparations. Now, there's no one here that was at Flag. Brother Arthur, were you at Flag with us? You were at Flag, right?
no, sir. No, sir. I was.
Okay.
Tim.
Okay. So the statement was made. There was a sister who spoke, and there was a brother who spoke. And the brother who spoke is actually a prince that belongs to a certain tribe in Africa. He's a prince. Well, what he said and what his other sister said is the reason why they became Scientologists is to make up for what their ancestors did to us. We think reparation is going to be everyone gets a check for $1 million, but then it's going to be like the Dave Chappelle show. If you remember that episode, everyone gets their check, right? A fool and his money will soon part, correct?
Right.
Absolutely.
So before we can get the luxury money, good homes and furniture on walks of life and get our reparations, don't we need the mind that is able to handle that?
Yes, sir. Come on.
So, to me, my opinion, my humble opinion is part of our reparations that needs to be in place before we get the wealth is the mind right.
Right.
And the Church of Scientology is assisting us in that work, whether people like it or not. If you look at all the organizations in the country, the best of them, based on what I've experienced, is what I have come in contact with the Church of Scientology. You can say what you want. I will defend that. Now, there's 10%, 5%, 85% in everything. Everything's for real. My dad raised me on the thought that there's good and bad in everything. I understand that. But I have come across some sincere people, based on my opinion, based on me reading people's spirit, based on how I felt. They have been sincere in what they have said, what they have done, and what they have done to assist me in the work that I have been doing over the course of the past 13 years now. I believe the tech is part of our reparations, preparing us for the other part of the reparations. See, some of us want the wealth, but we don't want to go through the work.
The righteousness.
Some of us ain't ready for them. The money would destroy us.
We'll give it right back.
will.
It would destroy us.
Right back.
And Allah in his mercy is purposely, now I'm speaking for me, but I think I'm speaking for everyone. How many of us feel that we just get just enough money to pay our bills and have a little bit left over? We get just enough to stay above water. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes, sir.
that could be by design. Because Allah sees a bunch of fools that if they became rich, we might go off the deep end.
Forget all about Allah.
But that's what he says in the Holy Quran, right? So that's just my opinion, my experience. But I have yet to have anyone explain to me who the Muhammad was that made the devil study 35 to 50 years to wear the flag when it was the Savior who didn't he bring the sun, moon, and star?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So that Muhammad would have to start somewhere from 1910 forward, I would think, or 1930 forward.
That's true.
But they didn't come amongst us and do trade until 2011. That's just my opinion. That's just Brother Lukman. And if I'm wrong, correct me. I can take correcting, but I'm trying
Didn't
to
the minister mention how some of them would make it into the hereafter?
That's page 83 of Our Savior Has Arrived.
Yes.
Some of the people from the church. I remember he was talking and he had one of them, was it Sean? And Sean was quoting our lessons.
I think he called him Sean X.
Sean.
I think in one of the videos that we have, he called him Brother Sean X.
Yeah, he was reciting our lessons. I'm like, wait a minute. But I go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sister Sharon.
I was saying I thought I heard the minister say that some of them will make it into the hereafter. Yeah.
In the Quran.
Tell me if this sounds familiar. This is what L. Ron Hubbard says. Remember this mnemonic device in your mind. R, the letter R, the letter U, the letter A, and then the word queen. R-U-A, queen. Remember that mnemonic device. Here's what L. Ron Hubbard said with regards to the members of the Church of Scientology, with regards to the information that they study. He says, you can't just read it. R stands for read. U stands for you have to understand it. A stands for you have to absorb it. The QU stands for you have to be able to quote by exact number and exact meaning by number. R-U-A, queen. You have to read, understand, and absorb the axioms and be able to quote the exact number, the exact meaning, and the exact number. That's how we're supposed to have our lessons. So when you have all them axioms, based on what he said, the Scientologists, and really the auditor's code, if we're studying that text, we're supposed to be able to read it, understand it, absorb it, and quote it, the exact number, the exact meaning, and the exact number. So if I said, what's actual fact number 1? We should be able to know actual fact number 1. What's actual fact number 11? We should know actual fact number 11. What's actual fact number 20? We should know that.
Right.
That's how good we have to know our wisdom. That's how it's supposed to be. Brother Lukman's not there yet, but I'm working on it. Go ahead, Sister Ania. Sister Ania, and then Brother Salam. Go ahead, Sister Ania. You're on mute, Sister Ani, if you're talking.
I think my hand was just up from before.
Okay.
I apologize.
No problem. Brother Salam.
You know, in the Quran, it talks about jinns.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where is that in the ayat, but it talks about they heard a wonderful recital of the Holy Quran and they went back to their people to warn them. It gives me the impression at that moment that they are Muslims. They said they heard a wonderful recitation from the Holy Quran and they went back to their people to warn them, meaning that they was doing right by the Quran. And they want to show that the Quran is right and exact, but they want to let their people know they got one. We're warning you. You ever read that in the Quran? The jinns, wonderful recital, and they went back to their people to warn them. So this could be those jinns that are righteous.
Well, if you look at our history, okay, our history says, and basically what we just covered, we ran the devil over the Arabian desert. We took from him everything except the language and made him walk every step of the way. It was 2,200 miles. So then he did what? He went back, he went up into Europe. He went savage, right?
Yes.
Then that's where Musa came 2,000 years later to teach him of the forgotten technology that Yacob taught him with what? Embellishment, telling lies, stealing, and how to master the original man, right? Prior to them being marched out, we rounded up what? All that we could find.
All that we could find.
Okay. So some didn't go to Europe and they didn't learn devilishment. Because remember, devilishment
is a teaching.
It's not based on skin color.
That's right.
Devilishment is a teaching.
Yes.
Okay. So those that remained in the Holy Land and studied Islam, they don't know anything about the teachings of Yacob based on the devilishment, based on our history. And that's the thing we have to, not we, but generally speaking, devil is not based on skin color.
That's right.
Our lessons say that Yacob was an original black man and was the father of the devil. He taught the devils to do this devilishment.
That's it.
The ones in the Holy Land didn't learn that because they never went to Europe. They weren't marched and cable towed across the burning desert. So you can't hold them accountable. Yes, based on their genetic makeup, the minister said they had a leaning, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they were devils because they studied Islam. And the minister said a good name after righteousness is a bad thing, I think he said, right?
Yes. Bad name after faith.
Thank you. A bad name after faith. Okay. So we got to connect the dots with all these, what we're studying, and really dig into the minister's words. And as he said, in his absence, we got to remain in contact with him. How do we do that? We keep doing exactly what we're doing now. Study, study, study.
Before we close, I want to add this, that in Surah 18, it talks about an individual leaving up out of Europe. It don't say Europe, but they say that they gave him a coin to go and buy some food, but they also told him to behave himself. You ever read that in Surah 18?
I remember seeing that.
Yes, but what it's saying that even those that was coming out of Europe, they was taught righteousness. That they was being taught righteousness. You follow me?
Okay.
So I just want to add that you know, it's a teaching. Devilishment is a teaching.
Devilishment is a teaching. That's right from our lessons.
Yeah.
Right. Didn't Musa teach them the forgotten technology?
Yes. Some. So if he taught them some of the forgotten technology, then the original man has more technology than the enemy, right?
That's a good point.
I mean, it is what it is, bro. You know. Real quick, I want to acknowledge brother Wahid. Assalamu alaikum, brother Wahid. We're glad and thankful that you are with us. And brother Eric. Assalamu alaikum, brother Eric.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. How is you doing?
Say what?
How is you doing?
Oh, as long as it stays this quiet for the rest of the night, I'll be doing just fine.
I see you is doing good.
Yes, I is doing well.
All right, good. Assalamu alaikum, la family. Brother Salim.
Alaikum salam, brother Eric. How you been?
By Allah's mercy. Very good, thanks.
Yes, sir. Good seeing you, brother.
Sorry that I had to come in so late.
That's okay. We're just glad to see your smiling face.
Go ahead.
Anyone else? Thoughts, comments, questions, corrections, statements, wins, cognitions, postulates, anything?
Assalamu alaikum.
Well, they can come on.
I just wanted to thank you. This format has been very, very informative. And
Yes.
being able to go straight through with your presentation, I enjoyed that format. And then the dialogue at the end. So thank you. This was, I don't think you could have made it any plainer. This was a very good Zoom.
Does this have anything to do with past conversation that we've had, Sister Charlotte?
Look, it's real.
I plead the fifth.
Absolutely. Thank you.
No, all praise due to Allah. So maybe what we'll do in the future is we'll just have, we'll see where it goes, but you know, people can input their questions in the chat and we can handle all the questions at one time. Because then, I mean, because now it's like, here, it's only 8:15. We're ready to close it out already. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
It may not always happen that way, Sister Charlotte.
I know,
but I know you appreciate that.
I surely do. Praise be to Allah. Thank you.
Anyone else before we close it out?
That will take too much time.
I think I'm going to try to finish up that lesson number 4 and see where it takes me. See where it goes with the tech. The hope is to eventually go through the whole Supreme Wisdom lessons and see if we can align all of it with the tech.
Absolutely, it is.
That's
I have
a
a
mission.
question, Brother Lukman.
Sister
Brother
Sharon.
Lukman, you on that mission.
Yes, sir. Most definitely.
You ever thought about streaming live from YouTube?
I've never thought about streaming live.
You just planted the seed.
Yeah. I just have to figure out how to do it. I think, yeah, that might be the next step is to stream live, see what happens.
Praise be to Allah.
You're streaming on Zoom, isn't it?
Yes.
One of the symbols on there, you click the where it says more. In the bottom, it more.
Engine 1, truck 1 respond, Broadway and Lutheran Street, MBA, unknown injury.
See, that's the beauty of the Savior. Everyone else has to go out and do a call except us.
Once you click the more, it will give you the access to live on a live Facebook or live YouTube.
And that's where again?
In the video section.
Yes.
Okay. In the video section. Yeah, I'll have to figure this out. Maybe I'll try that one day.
I think that'll be good. And people that are viewing could put actual questions.
That's how I put my stuff on
comments.
Facebook.
Okay.
Because when I'm on Zoom, I just put it on Facebook Live and then boom. So, but you have to turn it off on your Facebook. It will continue to work. Other than that, you're going to have double.
Okay. I'll figure it out. There's something I'm working on. If I can complete it by Wednesday, then maybe Wednesday we'll try to see if we can start that Wednesday.
Good.
See where it goes, see what happens. Let me ask this question before we get off. How is everyone doing in their studies with regards to the tech? I know, Sister Sharon, I think you're still working on book 1, correct?
No, I'm an auditor and I'm working on my goal seal.
You're working on your goal seal. All praises due to
Yes,
her. Sister Peggy, I know you got the travel situation, correct? Oh,
Sir?
you had the travel situation, but situation with the okay.
No, not anymore. Are you talking about my foot?
You're at the almost at the end of book 1, correct?
No, sir, I'm not at the end of book 1 because it was interrupted when I fell.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I returned like 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And so I just whatever I did in February, that's what I'm doing now. So I'm behind, but I'm continuing to take it.
Brother
You're
Luke,
on mute, bro, Luke mine.
No, he's talking to somebody else.
Oh.
Is that work?
I'm multitasking.
Yes, sir. I had the travel issues,
Okay.
which I still do have, but
Okay.
in the meantime, I'm just doing all of the free online courses that they have available.
That's good enough. That's better than none.
Okay. And who else? Sister Anya, where are you in your studies, if you don't mind me asking?
Don't embarrass me, please.
Oh, no, it's
No. No, I'm just teasing. But no, sir, I'm not. I did start last year sometime. I did start, but I fell off, and so I didn't get too far with that.
okay.
Let me go find the word that you miss.
Oh, we got a supervisor in the room.
Be quiet, brother.
From where you stop, from the point that you stop, check there one paragraph or maybe 1 page or 2 pages before and see if there is a word there that you did not understand.
Okay, yes, sir.
You gotta be careful when you got a supervisor in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And then Brother Arthur.
May I ask a question to Brother Eric?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Brother Eric, is there any work that can be done since you are a supervisor that until I can actually get to an org, like pre-org stuff, perhaps?
There is no free things in the org itself. All the free stuff, you get them online right now.
I know that. That wasn't what I was asking.
But you can do the extension courses.
Okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the extension course, that's the only thing that they offer for free.
Now, the extension courses, you can do those from home. You don't have to go to the org.
Yes, sir. I've done several. I'm trying to get my gold seal, but it's the classroom.
The drills.
The drills
Yeah.
that's stopping me. I've done everything else.
Okay. Yeah, the drills you got to do at the org. So that's the dilemma. The only thing holding you up is the drills.
Yes, that's the
And
only
you have
thing.
to use the demo kits also to make sure that you can apply what you are reading.
So my question is then, is there anything that you can work with me on to better prepare me for when I get to the org?
In other words, let me see if
I'm not looking for
can you
anything
practice?
free.
Can you practice the drills? Like practice just to get the rhythm of what they are and how they work.
Exactly.
So that when you get to the org, okay, so Brother Eric, as a supervisor, you would be able to answer that one better than myself. Could she practice the drills just to kind of get an idea of the drills and how they work before she gets to the org?
Unfortunately not, because we are in the same confine. Because the drill, you have the each other face to face. At that point, you have control over, because if you are the one who is really helping the person to practice, so you have to be able to see when there is any mistake, any motion that was not supposed there to stop and over. But over the phone, over the Zoom, it doesn't work, and that's why you cannot do those things long distance. You have to be present.
I submit. Thank you.
Right.
And that's one reason
it's our best interest, really.
And that's one of the reasons why we can't audit, because there's more. Your body language is saying a lot. When your mouth isn't speaking, your body is giving signs and signals. Your hand could move, your foot can start tapping, and these things are going on, and they cannot be observed over the Zoom platform. Your body is, the Holy Quran kind of says like this, and that day their hands and feet will speak to them. Have you seen that before?
Yes, sir.
Well, it's the same in auditing. You watching a person's body language, and there's certain things that the body will show you and tell you to let you know that you're close to tapping this engram. You're right there, even though their face might not. Their body is giving you the body is trying to communicate with you.
Yes, sir.
Sister Sharon.
The twitches, there are some twitches outside in the body that I may not perceive over the distance. Look how many people are right there on this program. And look how many of them are behind what do you call this thing when you hide yourself?
The avatars.
Avatars. Okay. So now imagine you want to audit somebody and that person put himself in avatars. Can you really say you're auditing? It cannot be. So that's why everything has to be live. Because at that point, if there is something that you must do and you are trying to avoid it, you can be really forced to do it. We're not going to handle you, but mostly if I'm doing objective auditing with you, I have to physically hand you to say to do it.
Just trying to be persistent. I guess that's one of my inroads.
No, that's what you're supposed to do, and you keep throwing that energy out into the universe, and what will come back is a way for you to get to the org to finish these deals.
Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir.
There is a little bit something more into this also. We in our lessons we call that the devil, right? But in their lessons they call it the reactive mind. Because the devil make you think, do things that you know you're not supposed to do.
Absolutely. I submit.
And the reactive mind also make you do things that you're not supposed to do. Because it wants to take control of your mind and your body. Because the whole thing is an aspect of your mind that is being reflected. And people cannot read your mind, but there are people who are experienced enough, they know when there is something present. See? You were talking and all of a sudden there is a slowness that is coming. Or you what's going on?
What's happening?
You see? Because these are little details that reveal aspect of your mind right there. Behind the avatar, I cannot even see you. I don't even know what you're doing. See? You can be doing thousands of things. It could even be things that is offensive to the site. We would not know that. See? So auditing or Scientology, as we call it, is as valuable as our lessons, mostly the Supreme Wisdom. Vanessa Parker said this is the next best thing that we ever get. that Scientology lesson. Not me saying it, he said it. And I had to make sure that I understand why he had to say it. And the more you study their lessons, he said, hey, that's what I heard in my lessons. And that's why some of us are going so bold to say, he stole it from us. How could he steal it from you? No. He had his hand on something that makes him see what we got. For those who have studied the lectures, there are some of those books, he said, in the very beginning, he said he studied religion for a long time. He went all over the world to study aspect of religion. He said, I finally find the door and I'm leaving it for you all. What was the door that he found? He found our lessons. Remember, Elron Hubbard was a research officer in the Navy. After they confiscated all the lessons from the Muslim Elijah Muhammad, they had to go through to see what those lessons mean. And from those lessons, he finds something, when he find them, he quit. The military wanted him so bad, they said, we will arrest you. So that's why he moved out of the United States. He went to England, but they were still after him.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
teaching on the sea. That's what they got something called Sea Org. The first org was on the sea. He had a big boat. And from that boat, he was teaching, and he was converting people like crazy. And this is what we have today. We don't have to go through the hardship that they had to go through. We don't have to go through the hardship that the Muslim Elijah Muhammad had to go through. And we are the beneficiary of all of that. But we have to understand the beauty of all of these on both sides. Because we have the lessons of the Muslim Elijah Muhammad. We are not studying in them really. We have the org. We talk bad about them. We're not studying them. And we expect to enter the hereafter. How are we going to be if we go into that hereafter without what was given to us? Remember, the Muslim Elijah Muhammad told us, the minister is the door. If he's the door, are we even knocking on it? Because if we understand the minister, you automatically being presented to the Muslim Elijah Muhammad. And when we understand the Muslim Elijah Muhammad, we can understand the master that came to teach him or to save us. So far, the only person I ever heard talk about something like that is a minister. Number one, he said his mind was aligned with the Muslim Elijah Muhammad. He said the Muslim Elijah Muhammad took him into his mind. And later on, he said, the Muslim Elijah Muhammad took him into the mind of Master Farid Muhammad. And finally, he said the Master Farid Muhammad took him into the mind of the original God. You ever heard anybody on this planet, past or present, say something like that before? So when I heard all other men say all this, I was very afraid to meet him. Because first of all, he said, some of you, I can call your face to me and read what is in your mind. So I said, oh, I don't want to meet that guy. I might be surprised, and I'm thinking wrong, and then you see, fortunately for me, he was the one who called me in his presence. But you know, by way of my wife. And when I get to him, he make me feel so calm. I didn't even know that I was with a man of his stature because he came right down to my level, make me very easy. Yet the conversation was very profound. You see? So all I can say in all of that, brothers and sisters, these lessons, take them at heart. We cannot create the universe overnight, nor can we discover all those planets and stars in a month or a year. Keep on building. What are we building? Build yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There is a number that is given in the message to the black man, which is 22 million. I forget what page was that, 185, 175, one of them. The Muslim we're talking. It give you how many original men? 17 million. It gives you how many Indian? 2 million. That makes it 19 million. And later on, it give you 3 million Muslim sons.
Oh, the planet Earth.
Add that to the 19 million, that give you 22 million that is talking. I hear many believers talking about the 30 to 40 million soul dead.
We're gonna have to wrap it up, Brother Eric.
Okay, go ahead.
No, finish your point. Finish your point.
We have to be very careful with that because the lesson never say, because we cannot change the lesson. And the minister made it sure one day. He said Manhattan was purchased for how much? He said the white man never changed that number. He asked, do you know why? He could easily change it to tell you this is how much it was today, the equivalent of that money, but they never change it. They keep it the same. So we have no right to change what the Muslim Muhammad taught. The minister don't change it. Yeah, at one point, one day he made a lecture where he mentioned the 40 million of us, but he was not changing anything from the lessons. That's it for me. That's all I Whenever they ask me a question on this thing, I think I am become like an automat. I want to stop, I cannot stop. Because I'm going in and out of so many of them.
That's what happens when you're full, brother. There's just so much information there.
One last thing I would say. Remember, there were two uncles, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first uncle is who? The black man. And the second uncle is a white man because the mother was white.
Yep.
Lesson question number 6, I believe, in the talk about the second uncle. That's the problem number 6. Check it out. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Wait a minute. I might have to run.
Don't want to walk, please.
Dodge the bullet again. Let's get ready to close it out before everything starts to blow
Go
up.
ahead.
Peggy, did you have another statement to make before we wrap it up? I saw you raise your hand there for a split second. I'm like an auctioneer. If I see your hand go up, I'm calling on you. Mr. Peggy? Okay. All right, family.
I'm sorry, I didn't recall raising my hand. Thank you.
I saw you do this at one time. I thought you were, I'm like an auctioneer. If I see you move, I got you. All right, family. Inshallah, this will be up and running. I'm gonna try to get this up and running tonight. God willing, I will see everyone on Wednesday. And let us go ahead. Okay, let me go ahead and close this out in prayer. Pray Allah will continue to bless us all. Attention prayer. I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed Satan. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, Master of the day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve, thine aid do we seek. Please Allah guide us on the straight path, the path upon whom thou hast bestowed favors, not the path upon whom thy wrath is brought down, nor those who go astray if they have heard thy teaching. Ameen.
Ameen. Is it takbir?
Family.
Allahu Akbar. Alaikum salam.
See you Wednesday, inshallah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.